Hey everybody, I'm tired. Let's just start there. But this is Camille, Aiko. I hope that you are living the life that you love, spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially. I woke up out of my sleep to come and do this live. So let's jump into it. Drop those ones. If you are still up and you are catching this live, drop a 2. If you are catching this on replay, I've got my hat on as my disguise for how tired I am looking right now, but I'm committed. Hey, what's going on? I'm tired, but I'm good. Okay, and I'm excited to jump into this topic. Drop those ones. I'm at 100%. Yes, 100%. So drop a 1 if you're catching this live. Drop a 2 if you're catching this on replay. Your girl just been traveling all day and then came home and laid down and have been asleep. So here we are though. For those of you who are just joining for the first time, we are going over the book, The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. And we're on chapter 19. We're almost done with the book. There's only 22 chapters. So, yay! Congrats to all of you who have stuck with me through reading this book. Again, we're reading the book, The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, and we are talking about tonight, customer satisfaction is the wrong target. So we're asking, do you have the wrong target? You might have set some goals, and maybe your goal was to grow spiritually. Maybe you are a Christian and your goal is to grow spiritually, but you haven't even picked up your Bible, but yet you're worried about a whole bunch of other things. So we need to make sure that our focus is in the right place. Yes, honey. And that's what we are going to talk about on tonight. So before we even jump into it, let's talk about, and I understand that this may not be everybody's topic of choice, okay, because he does mainly focus really on customer satisfaction. So literally customers of a business. So if you don't have a business, you may be thinking like, okay, well, does this really apply to me? But making sure that as we are going through the chapter and even talking about customer satisfaction, that we understand how you can translate this into other areas of your life. And so I'll try and come up with some examples. If not, you think of some examples, drop it in the comments. Hey, what's going on, Samuel Bean? So now let's talk about what the 10X rule is. The 10X rule is applying 10 times more effort with 10 times more thought. Hey, what's going on, Wilbert? 10 times more thought to be able to achieve what it is that you desire in your life, okay? At a 10 times greater level. And so this is then coming into a 10X reality because you've increased your actions, you've increased your thought, you've increased your preparedness. And so therefore, you are not only getting what you desire, but you are ready for the challenges that come. And that's what happens with most of us. We can get a certain level of success. We can get certain things that we desire. However, we aren't prepared for when the bad things happen. And we do know that the bad things happen. We know that the unexpected bill comes. We know that unexpected pregnancies come. We know that unexpected job loss comes. And that completely changes your situation. Wilbert, I am on 100%. So can I get a round of applause, lady and Jessica and Wilbert? We have to just make sure that we are not just getting what we want, but making sure that we are prepared to keep what it is that we have attained. So let's jump in to chapter 19. Thank you, darling. Thank you. All right. Which is customer satisfaction is the wrong target. And so you're like, you might be saying like, how is customer satisfaction? Thank you, Wilbert. How is customer satisfaction the wrong target? Like, shouldn't we be making sure the people in our lives are satisfied? Shouldn't we be making sure the customers that we have are satisfied? And he says that we really begin to dig our, thank you for so much applause. But we really begin to dig our own grave. He says, when you fail to find supporters, establish customers, secure investors, and close the deal because you fail to do whatever it takes to get the job done, and then you hide under the excuse of protecting your brand and customer satisfaction, you just as soon have a shovel in your hand and dig your own grave. Good evening, Eva. Right, thank you all. I have my phone on 100%. I won't be telling you that it's not working or any of that. Yeah, Wilbert is like brown nosing tonight, right? But I'll take it. Give me those hand claps. Okay, so essentially what he is saying here is that in order to even make sure that your customer is satisfied, you have to first have a customer. You first have to have the resources and the sources in place to establish what it is that you desire anyway. So in this case, in the focus example for tonight, we're talking about a business. He's like, how can you make sure that your customers are satisfied and you have no customers? I mean, you all make that, oh, it was a slow clap. Well, that explains all of the claps going down the timeline or going down the comments. But how can we make sure that we are keeping our customers satisfied if we don't have any? You all make that make sense for me, right? So this is what Grant is challenging us on. So most times we only hear about customer satisfaction. So after you have gotten the customer. But if you are in business and you have not, if you're not getting the customers that you want, the amount of customers that you want, then that means that it's not an issue necessarily of customer satisfaction, but it's an issue of you need to make sure that you're doing what it takes to first acquire those customers, okay? So let's move on. He says customer service is the wrong target. Increasing customers is the target. He says customer service is important. It's important that you make sure that your customers are indeed getting what it is that you have told them they would receive. You know, you're making sure that they are happy, but that should not be the main target. He says command attention and generate customers before you worry about making them happy. You can't make somebody or something happy if you aren't doing what you need to do to first get them. Okay, so let's go back to my analogy, or not analogy, but example of that. If your goal is to grow spiritually, but you're not even in your word, like you're not even in what it takes to understand what it means to grow spiritually, how can then we expect to expand upon or achieve our goals if we're not even doing the basic things? So I guess as I was even reading this chapter, I'm really thinking about, are we doing the basic things that we need to do to achieve our goals, or are we jumping the gun? You know, maybe you want to become a singer, and so you're worried about getting a record deal, but you need to get some vocal lessons first. Like, it's a little rough. So instead of so focused on getting a record deal, you need to be over here saying, hey, I need to get a vocal coach first. Like, there's steps and processes to this. And so if you are jumping to the end goal without handling the foundation first, you are in grave danger. And that means that your target is off base. It means that your foundation is rocky. So again, in the example of customers, it's you can't focus on customer satisfaction if you don't even have any customers to focus on. And I know it's late, it's Friday night. Y'all like, why are we talking about this? Because we're committed and we said we were going to read this book together and this is what we chose, so this is what we're doing. Just an FYI. And catch us on replay if you halfway asleep. Share it. Do all that great stuff so you can get into the weekly drawing. So the next point is get more customers than over deliver. So essentially, whatever your base is, whatever the foundation of what is going to allow you to achieve what it is that you desire, do more of it. If you're like, okay, and let's go back to our spiritual goal. If you want to really grow in God's word and understand it more, then that means you're going to have to read more than one scripture per night. So attack that thing. Make sure that you're getting in more word. Make sure that you're reading and not just reading, but reading to understand and comprehend it. Read it to the point where you can teach it to someone else. Be able to break it down to a point of a child or that can, to a child who can understand so that they can go back and repeat it. Like, that's when you know you are really getting the information and then actually teaching it in the right way, is when you can teach it to a young child and that child can go out and repeat it. Like, once you can get it to that point of simplicity, of understanding for people, then you know that you got it, okay? So we're talking about creating a strong base, creating a strong foundation so that you can do, hey, Taryn, what's going on? So that you can get more. So his main focus is get more customers, and then let's talk about how we can keep them satisfied. And then the other example is, hey, get in your word, read it clearly, so then you can, let's say, you want to grow spiritually, and the end point is you want to become a preacher, right? You want to become a pastor. So then you want to get in your word and study it to the point where then it's okay for you to become a pastor. But why do you want to become a pastor and you don't know the word, right? And you all can think of some examples as well. Like, what are some things where you have to get a strong base before you start focusing on the end goal? Like, we have to make sure that we're doing more to create a strong foundation before we start focusing on doing these other things that don't matter if your foundation isn't in place. So even with the singing, you want to become a singer, but you don't sound well right now, like, and you need a little bit of help, then you have to get to a strong foundation of your vocal ability. Maybe you need to work on just your versatility of your singing. Maybe you need to work on your range. Maybe you need to work on the type of music that you're even singing, because maybe it's not the right fit for your voice. So you have to establish these things, make sure that you actually have something strong enough to then continue to pursue. So if it's customers, then you want to make sure that you have the right product, that you have a quality product before you just get out here and pursuing all of these customers and trying to make sure they're satisfied. They can't be satisfied if you don't have a good product. And then you can't be satisfied if you don't even have a customer, okay? All right, so the next point is non-customer satisfaction. People who are dissatisfied because they do not have your product or service and may not even know that they're unhappy. You should be so confident about what you have to offer. And maybe this is just your personal brand, right? You should be so confident in what you have to offer that you should think about it as if a person is dissatisfied, it's not because they have your product and something went wrong. You should be thinking they're dissatisfied because they don't have my product. They don't even know that they're unhappy because they don't know what joy my product brings to them. So, for instance, one of my products that I promote is the Aiko tea. All of y'all need to try it. And so I need to be thinking about, why haven't people tried it? And it's okay if people give complaints, because now I need to figure out how to make sure that my customers are getting the best results. But the first thing is I need to make sure that the Aiko tea, my detox tea, is in everybody's hands, because everybody needs to detox. So I can't make sure people are satisfied if you aren't even using the product. Does this make sense? For those of you who are there, hopefully you are catching what I'm saying. So he says there's two types of dissatisfied customers. One, it should be the people who don't have your product or service. And then two, the people who have it but aren't using it properly. So if you, let's stick with my same tea example. If I have my tea and people have it but they're not using it, or using it properly, now I need to come in and see what's going on. How do I make this better? Those are the only dissatisfied customers that we should have. Everybody else, we need to make sure that we are increasing our customers and then worrying about the satisfaction piece, because too many of us are focused on satisfaction and we don't have enough customers. We don't have enough money to pay the bills. We don't have enough money to keep our business alive. And so Grant is saying, if you want more results, then you have to do more of the basics, the basic, simple pieces in order to start thinking about satisfaction. So he says, talk about how to get clients to increase their proper usage of the material systems, processes, and the only way to increase, or is the only way to increase, customer satisfaction. So once you have the customer, now let's talk about, are you using this properly? And let's increase your usage. So that way we can really have a customer that is satisfied. Okay, next point. We get wrapped up in achieving customer satisfaction with little to no customers. So we've already hit on that. I'm not going to go and expound further other than to say you need to make sure you are doing enough of the basics. That's what you're going to hear me say all night while we're on this live. Now, he gives an example utilizing relationships, okay? So he says this is the same thing for relationships when you think about it. And he says the attainment of the customer is most important thing to me. Same in relationships. First is getting the wife. Then it is keeping her happy. Then it is growing the family. And then looking at new ways to keep everyone happy. What was most important? Getting the wife was paramount to wife satisfaction. So he's like, I can't keep a wife happy if I don't have a wife. So if you're out there and you're wanting to be married, then you have to first find the person that it is that you want to be married to before you think about the satisfaction that you can provide for them. And so because it become real backwards, like, well, here, I want to make you satisfied, and you focus on satisfying that's something that is not there. So get what it is that you need, and then you can work on satisfying them. Okay, now in the process, we know that we do need to be prepared. You need to understand what it even takes to make someone satisfied. But what he is saying is get what the reason why he doesn't focus so much on customer satisfaction is because he over delivers. Like he knows once you get the product, you're going to love it. So even in the process or thought of having a relationship, what he is saying is, you know what? I'm so wonderful that I know that you're going to love me. And then I'm going to over deliver. So this is the thing. You don't just get the spouse or the person and then stop and quit. No, you get the person and then you continue to work on how can I make this person happy? How am I going to make this work? Like, how can we move to the next level? How are we going to continue to advance? How am I going to be able to make sure that the entire family, once you begin to expand the family, or maybe you came in to the equation with children, like how do you continue to make everybody happy? So you get them, and then you have to figure out how to keep them. That is our goal. So get to the basics and then figure out how to keep it satisfied. And that is true. Find the right person first, right? Only makes sense. Okay, so the next thing, don't just talk about customer service, focus on customer acquisition. We've covered that. And y'all know I get ahead of myself sometimes. Now, let me back it up. Customer satisfaction is detrimental to companies because they are consumed with current satisfaction, that many are failing to aggressively acquire and expand their market share. So the thing that really stuck out to me about this point is he says the companies become consumed with current customer satisfaction. Like we want to grow relationships, we want to grow in our goals, but we don't want to set higher standards. It's kind of like we want to stay at this base level. But you can't get higher if you are focused only on your current situation. If you want to move beyond your current situation, whether it's getting new customers or whether it's strengthening your relationships or whether it's growing in your relationship with Christ or whether it is learning a new skill, like learning how to play a new sport, okay? If you want to get better, if you want to achieve higher heights, then you first have to stop thinking at your current level of thinking and focusing so much of your current place. You have to begin to expand your thinking and think beyond, because in order for you to go to new heights, then that means something has to change. You can't keep functioning at the same level. You can't keep assuming that you're going to get new customers based off of the old commercial that you've been continuing to run. See, it's good initially to see it because it's got to get into your mind. But if you continue to see the same thing over and over and over again, then your mind just begins to tune out whatever it is. Okay, it begins to tune out that commercial. So you want to make sure that when you are thinking about acquiring something new, going to the next level, that you can't just focus on the current situation. You have to think above and beyond that, okay? So remember, customer satisfaction cannot exist without customer first. So we're talking, if you're just joining in, welcome. And we are on the 10X Rule book by Grant Cardone. And just as a reminder, Grant is like an expert in business, in sales, in real estate. And so that's the point of view that he is writing this book. And then sometimes he gives examples, and sometimes I give examples, or you all add in just ways that these concepts and principles and rules and guidelines, or the whole concept behind the 10X rule, how it can apply to every area of our life and not just the business aspect of our life. Okay, so the next point is the main thing is keep the main thing the main thing. Like how we're continuing to get off track by focusing on the wrong stuff. Okay, and so he says American corporations have become so obsessed with customer satisfaction that they've lost sight of the first and most vital factor, customer acquisition. Keep the main thing the main thing. Stop trying to fly, or let me make sure I'm reading this right. Okay. Stop trying to find what went wrong. Focus on keeping it right from the beginning. So once you get this customer, then again, we want to over deliver. Stop trying to go back and say, okay, well, how these mistakes that I made, how do I come back and fix them? Now, if you do make a mistake, you do want to fix them. But Grant is saying with our 10 times more thought, with our 10 times more effort, then we should be prepared for the wrong things to happen. But stop trying to find out what went wrong or focus on what went wrong. Keep the focus on keeping it right from the very beginning. Like you don't have to fix a relationship that you kept your focus on keeping it right from the very beginning. Like you said, okay, we're not going to just get marriage counseling right before we get married, but we are going to get counseling as we go through. Not because our marriage is unhealthy, but just to make sure that we're keeping it on point. That I'm not going to stop dating you just because we got married. No, I'm going to continue to take you out. I'm going to continue to satisfy your desires. These are the things that we begin to think about when we're saying get a strong base, acquire what it is that you need first, and then work on keeping that thing in check, maintaining it. So the next point is there are going to be complaints and dissatisfaction because we're human, right? It doesn't matter what aspect we're talking about. There's going to be some complaint. There is going to be some sort of dissatisfaction. He says, but resolve the issue, then use it as an opportunity to communicate. So stop running away from your problems. Stop running away from complaints and things that don't tickle your ear. Face them head on. Stop playing the blame game and really just say, okay, well, if you have an issue, let's talk about it so that we can solve it. Let me get your perspective. So an example, I went to a restaurant and I took my group of people with me. So we walk into the restaurant. I go step to the restroom. And while I'm gone, my group they're looking at the menu. They decide that they don't like the menu and that they don't want to eat there anymore. So the person who was cooking, I'm assuming by the way that she got offended at our decision to leave, she was the owner. And instead of trying to understand why we were leaving or what was going on and what exactly happened, she got very upset and was just like, you all just came in here to use my bathroom and I can't believe that this is what you did. And I would have been so happy just to cook anything for you. But she never sought to understand what the true problem was. And then she never tried to resolve the issue. The only thing she did was get an attitude that we were dissatisfied and had complaints, and was just like, I just can't believe. And, you know, it was to the point where I had more customer service than her. So I stood there and told her what the situation was and why we were doing what we were doing. So what's my point? My point is, maybe she could have kept us in that restaurant had she not had that little nasty attitude and told us or sought to understand why we felt the way that we felt and why they didn't want to eat there. So if you had she didn't come up with solutions until after she had given us the nasty attitude and prepared to walk out. I would have cooked anything for you all. Now, what if she would have kept a positive attitude and then offered that solution? It would have been completely different. But you have this nasty attitude and you're now offering to cook me food. I don't know if you're going to spit in it. I don't know what you're going to put in it because you're mad. And I don't want you serving me up no mad dishes. Like, I need some positive, happy dishes. And I don't need that vibe in my life. Okay, so that, again, is just an example of how you want to be able to resolve an issue and then use it as an opportunity to communicate. Maybe she could have been like, you know, how can I improve my menu? And sometimes it's not even that you want them as a customer. She didn't want us as a customer. Why? Because people didn't even like what was on the menu. So instead of trying to force us to like what was on the menu, she should have been more focused on finding the customers that actually like what she had. Like, we try sometimes to just get anything and anybody. And though we want everybody to have our product, the truth of the matter is you want quality clients. Because I can get everybody to have my product in hand, but if you're not going to use it, then you do me an injustice. Or if you don't use it properly, you do me an even bigger injustice, because it's like, now when people ask you if the product works, you know what you're going to tell them? No, it didn't work. When actuality, it did work. You just didn't use it properly. So that, again, is just another example. But instead of focusing on that, what you do is you seek to resolve issues and then use it as an opportunity to communicate. So next point, customer satisfaction isn't just about how to treat customers. It's after you acquire them, should also focus on what you do to attain them in the first place. So getting people in the beginning, after you acquire them, is not the only focus. It's how you attain them. How do you get them? Or if you're not satisfied, right? So can't achieve massive success while limiting your acquisitions. So some people are like, I only want a handful of customers in order to be successful. And Grant's like, no. Don't just get a handful of customers. Go out here and get a whole bunch of quality customers and keep them happy. That's what he is saying. Go out here, get a whole bunch of quality customers and keep them happy. Keep them happy from the very beginning. And the way that you do that is by over-delivering what it is that you have to offer. Okay? Make sure that your product is that much better, or the free stuff comes up front. So now you're wanting to even become a customer. Like, that's how you get customers. Offer something free, and then people want to come back, or discounts. People love discounts and free. Okay? And then follow up with them to make sure that they experience a good service. Ask for those referrals, so that way you can grow your client base. Okay, the next point. Don't fear customer complaints. It's a perfect way to tell you how to improve. So let's say you're on your job. You have some of your coworkers, or maybe your boss, or maybe you're going to your boss. Everybody should be open for useful criticism, okay? If it is going to help you to grow. So if we come and say, hey, this is the issue, then this means you should accept it and say, okay, I see what you are saying, and then really take a moment to self-reflect and be able to identify with how they are feeling so that you can address the issue. Because it might be your promotion on the line. It might be your raise on the line. Maybe it's just the company culture. Maybe you just need to make sure that going to work is going to be in a positive atmosphere. But I will say this, that you cannot fix a problem, guys, if you are not sharing that there is even a problem to have, especially with using the example that I'm talking about as far as your job, okay? So I spoke to someone, and they were just saying, you know what? My boss doesn't even, like, I don't have a voice when it comes to speaking to my boss. So I just sit there and I'm quiet, and whatever they tell me to do, I do. And they think that it's just me being like this great worker, but it's really even though there's times where I don't agree with them, I do what I do because I feel like even if I spoke up, I don't have a voice. But see, the boss, I then spoke to them, and they're like, you know what? This person is great. All you have to do is you tell them the whole outline of all the little things that need to be done, and they get it done. So they're thinking like this person is just a little worker bee, and that's just how they function, and that is their work ethic. And the other person who was doing it is just like, I don't have a voice, so I just be quiet and do what they tell me to do, so there's no problems. Well, the boss doesn't know that there's any problems, and the employee doesn't know how the boss feels because they're not communicating. You cannot resolve issues if you aren't communicating. If you have a problem with your boss, figure out the right way to approach them and let them know, because they don't know that it's a problem, and they can't resolve the problem if you don't know, if you don't tell them. And then if you feel like you're in a place where your boss won't listen, and you have to go to PR, and you have to go through all of these leaps and bounds in order for people to care about how you feel and increasing a better work environment, then maybe you need to change the work environment that you're in. Because if they don't care about you and they don't value your work, then it's time to go. Go somewhere where you're valued. Go somewhere where you do have a voice. Don't stay somewhere and be completely miserable. Okay, so the next point that we're going to talk about as far as acquiring customers or customer satisfaction, right? He says really the whole scope of customer satisfaction, again, is not waiting till after you get the customer to make sure that they're satisfied. But number one, what you should be doing is acquiring customers. Stop trying to make sure they're satisfied if you don't have any customers. So then number two, impress with how great you are during the acquisition process. So once you are getting the customer, again, you are making sure that they know how fabulous of a product you have. You're letting them know how fabulous of a company you are. And then number three, establish customer loyalty. So this is making sure that now, once they have the product, they're going to keep coming back to you over and over again. So even let's go back to his example about relationships or marriage, right? You have to first get the right person. Then secondly, impress them with how great you are. So now you've got them, you're showing them how great you are, you're showing them how smart you are, you're telling them about your vision and your goals, and they're loving it, and you're dating, and you're having a good time, and you're laughing together. And then once you do that, you can't just stop. You got to keep going. You have to be able to maintain what it is that you have. So customer satisfaction should truly be the whole process of getting the customer, understanding what the customer wants so that they actually become a customer, all up into making sure that they are loyal. So all of that is what is going to lead to your customer satisfaction. So guys, hopefully I was able to explain that in a way that even if you don't have your own business right now, it made sense for your life, or maybe just picking up nuggets to see how you can transfer those skills and that knowledge into a different area. She should have sought critic and grew Exactly. Exactly, Wilbur. And so, that's the 10X rule when it comes to that. The other thing that I just want to share before we get off here, as we talked about with the 10X rule, you have to begin to add value in order for people to even take you seriously. And that there is no shortage. That was the key thing. There's no shortage of money. There's no shortage of success. There's no shortage of ideas, right? But in order for you to find an abundance, you have to find your right people. And we talked about how you can be in one industry like acting, and people will be able to pay one person millions of dollars in that acting industry because they have added value. But you have to make sure you find the right people. So I was talking to someone and they're like, "You have no idea who I am, do you?" And I'm like, "No, and it really doesn't matter either." Like, so they were trying to add so much value and trying to like prove themselves to me. And I'm just like, but it's irrelevant. Like once we're done with this conversation, I won't have anything to say anymore about what we're talking about. Like this is it. And I'm not going to find any more additional value from this. And so what is my point? My point is we really are out here feeling like we are just so valuable to everybody in every aspect. And you do have some value. But what I'm saying is that if you truly want to experience the abundance, you need to get in front of the right people, doing the right actions at the right time. So this goes back into a different topic, not necessarily customer acquisition. But guys, whatever it is that your goals are, whatever it is that you want to do, make sure that you are in front of the right people, doing the right actions at the right time. Because otherwise you are just going to be wasting your breath as this person was. I probably gave him a little more interested face. I don't know. I'm very direct, so they very well could have gotten that face. Of just kind of like the blank stare, like, "Are you done now? Are you done? Because I'm done." Yes, but make sure that in order to tap into the abundance, that you are right in front of the right people, doing the right actions at the right time, because you don't want to get the face from somebody else. Like, Wilbert, you're the electrician. You don't want to go and talk to people about all of these technical terms about being an electrician to someone who is in the arts. They're going to be looking at you like, "Why are you giving me your resume? This has nothing to do with what I'm doing. I'm not going to pay you when I'm trying to act and you're trying to tell me about being an electrician," unless the role is of an electrician, right? Like, we have to make sure that we are just aligning ourselves properly. So align yourselves properly to what you want. And remember, while doing that, when you get in front of the right people, doing the right actions at the right time, you add more value, which will then help you to prove that there is no shortage of success. There's no shortage of money. There's no shortage of dreams and goals, because those people are the right people to support you and help push your dreams and help push your goals. I am, girl. I told you. That's why I got this hat on. So I am about to go back to sleep because that's what I was doing before I hopped on this live. So anyway, guys, that is my time. I hope that you all are living the life that you love spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially. Join me again, handyman at your service. I feel like I should be getting like a commission, Wilbur, for all of these little commercials I put out for you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Made it back safely. No hurt, harm, or danger. But you know, not just someone, my parents are traveling. And they were saying that someone had to be airlifted, and even on my way back, so there was like a 4-car accident. So we can never take things for granted. We can't take life for granted. So, or safe travels for granted. That's just another sidebar. So I don't know those people's names, but as you all say your prayers or think about it, make sure that you say a prayer for the family who had to have a loved one airlifted in the accident on today. Or there was a woman who I saw personally had the accident. You could just tell that she was just like overwhelmed by her body motions. Like everything was like big, and she's like flinging herself in the car. And I can understand that being overwhelmed. So, you know, when you all see accidents and things versus just looking, say a prayer for those people. Plug in right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, thanks again. Talk to you later. Bye.